It was a normal Wednesday when the knock on the door came, but for the Jackson family, the world would never be the same again. Jada Jackson, a bright and determined young woman, had just gotten off the phone with her mom, talking about their plans for the weekend. But when her father opened the door, everything changed. Two police officers stood at the threshold, their faces stern, their eyes cold. They flashed their badges, and before the Jacksons could ask what was going on, the words came flooding out. "We need to search your home." It wasn't a surprise, not anymore. The Jacksons had been targeted before by corrupt officers who had made it their mission to terrorize the community. But what these cops didn't know was that this wasn't just any family. The Jacksons were about to change the game. Jada spoke to herself, feeling the fire rising inside her. "I'll never forget that day. I'd grown up in a neighborhood where you learned to stay quiet when the cops came around, because speaking up could cost you everything. But that was before we realized what they were really doing, before we realized we had the power to fight back. It started months ago, when a series of mysterious break-ins began happening around the Jacksons' neighborhood. What was more disturbing wasn't the crime itself. It was the fact that every time the police came to investigate, they targeted one family and one family only. The Jacksons. Jada's father, Michael Jackson, a hard-working single dad, had always kept to himself. He ran a small auto shop in town, treating his customers like family. But one thing about Michael was clear: he wasn't afraid of authority. When he started noticing strange behavior from the local cops, patrol cars hanging around his shop, officers stopping him for no reason, he knew something was off. "They're watching us, Jada. I can feel it. They want something from me, but I'm not giving it to them," Michael warned his daughter one evening as he cleaned his tools. The Jacksons soon realized the cops weren't just watching. They were planting evidence, creating lies. The small-town police force had made a deal with a powerful drug lord operating in the area, using the Jacksons as pawns in their corrupt game. Jada's father was being framed for crimes he never committed. "They thought they could break us," Jada said, "but they underestimated us. My father didn't just fight for himself. He fought for all of us, and for the whole community." Jada and her father decided it was time to fight back, not with fists, but with something far more powerful: truth. They secretly gathered evidence of the cops' corruption, working with a group of local activists who had been monitoring the police for months. One night, after weeks of gathering intel, Jada received an anonymous tip, an insider from the police force who was ready to blow the whistle on everything. This officer, who had been disgusted by the way his colleagues operated, gave Jada the crucial information they needed to take down the corrupt cops once and for all. "We knew we were walking into the lion's den, but we were prepared," Jada said. "No more hiding in the shadows. This was our chance to show them that they couldn't keep getting away with this." With the help of the whistleblower, Jada and her father went public, presenting the evidence to the media. The story quickly spread, becoming the talk of the town. What happened next was nothing short of a miracle. The public outrage was immediate. Protests erupted, and the pressure on the corrupt officers grew unbearable. But the fight wasn't over yet. Just as the Jacksons began to feel the weight of justice shifting in their favor, a bombshell dropped. One of the officers named in their evidence, Sergeant Rourke, wasn't just involved. He was leading the entire operation. It turned out he'd been using his badge to run a drug trafficking ring for over a decade, and he wasn't acting alone. Half the department was either complicit or too afraid to speak up. What the Jacksons uncovered wasn't just corruption. It was a criminal enterprise with deep political ties. But Jada didn't flinch. "We knew if we exposed him we wouldn't be safe," she said. "But staying quiet meant they'd keep doing it to other families. We weren't going to let that happen." The Jacksons went into hiding for 2 weeks while the state launched a formal investigation. When the dust settled, 5 officers were indicted, 3 resigned, and Sergeant Rourke, he was sentenced to 27 years in federal prison. The Jackson family didn't just win their case, they sparked a statewide audit of police corruption. And Jada, she's now studying law, determined to become a civil rights attorney. They thought they could silence this family. They thought they could bury the truth. But the truth fought back, and it had the Jacksons on its side. A month after Sergeant Rourke's conviction, just as the Jacksons began putting the pieces of their lives back together, Jada received a plain, unmarked envelope in the mail. No return address, no stamp, just her name. Inside was a single photograph of her father, but not a recent one. It showed Michael Jackson, handcuffed, standing beside a man no one had seen in years, Detective Marcus Hale, a disgraced officer who had disappeared after being accused of police brutality in another city. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near this case. And then came the message written on the back of the photo, in thick black ink. "You exposed the wrong man. Now the real game begins." Jada froze. Sergeant Rourke wasn't the head of the operation. He was just the face. The real mastermind, the one pulling strings, planting evidence, and orchestrating the fall of families like hers, was still out there. And worse, he had just made his presence known. The fight wasn't over. It had only just begun. And this time it wasn't just about justice. It was about survival. Jada rushed to her father with the photo in her shaking hands. He stared at it and went silent, too silent. "Dad, you know him, don't you?" she asked, voice low, almost afraid of the answer. Michael didn't look her in the eye. Instead, he sat down slowly and whispered, "Detective Hale isn't just some dirty cop. He's your uncle." Jada's breath caught in her throat. "My what?" Michael nodded, his face tight with pain. "My older brother. We cut ties 20 years ago. He left the force in Chicago under suspicion of corruption. I thought he was gone for good. But I should have known better. He's always been one step ahead, always wanted control." Jada's mind spiraled. Her father had never even mentioned having a brother, and now she realized the real threat wasn't just outside their home. It was in their bloodline. But it didn't stop there. Later that night, Jada hacked into an old encrypted file left by the whistleblower cop, the one who helped them take Rourke down. In a folder titled Black Star Protocol, she found surveillance footage dated 6 months before Rourke's arrest. It showed her father, sitting across from Detective Hale in a diner, laughing, shaking hands, exchanging something in a manila envelope. Jada dropped her phone. "What the hell is going on?" she whispered, because in that moment she realized something far more terrifying. Her father might not be the hero of this story after all. Jada didn't sleep that night. She confronted her father the next morning, eyes red, voice trembling. "Were you working with him?" she asked. "Were you part of all this?" Michael looked at her for a long time. Then he walked to the kitchen drawer and pulled out another envelope, sealed, yellowed with age. He slid it across the table. "Open it," he said softly. Inside were documents, dozens of them. Photos, signed testimonies, wire transfer receipts, all pointing to one thing. Michael had been building a case against his brother for years. The diner meeting, a trap. The handshake, a signal for a wiretap. The envelope, evidence to hand off to federal agents who had been tracking Hale since his Chicago days. "I knew one day you'd see that photo," he said, "and I needed you to, because I wanted you to understand. The only way to beat monsters like him is to stay 10 steps ahead. Even if it means letting the world think you're one of them." For a little while, tears welled in Jada's eyes. All this time, her father wasn't hiding something dark. He was hiding something brilliant. Thanks to Michael's years of undercover work and Jada's relentless courage, the FBI launched a nationwide sting operation known as Operation Black Star. Over 60 corrupt officers across 3 states were arrested. Detective Hale was finally captured in a luxury hideout in the Cayman Islands. And Jada? She became a national speaker, empowering young activists to fight corruption and never lose faith in the truth. Even when it hides behind a mask. They tried to destroy the Jacksons. But the Jacksons lit a fire that burned corruption to the ground. And from those ashes rose a new legacy. If you're still here, this is your sign. Subscribe to Dark Side of Luna. This is just one story out of 1,000 true tales we're bringing to light. The betrayals, the redemptions, the justice. We're pulling back the curtain one episode at a time. Subscribe now. Stay woke. And never stop believing in the fight for what's right.